There's a story about Ireland that the world has been told for 30 years. It goes like this. A small, wet island on the western edge of Europe, once one of the poorest countries in the developed world, a nation that exported its people by the millions to America, Britain, and Australia, somehow transformed itself within a single generation into one of the wealthiest economies on the planet. Ireland became the home of Google's European headquarters, of Apple's international operations, of Meta, Microsoft, Pfizer, and dozens of the most powerful corporations in the world. Irish GDP per capita now ranks among the highest in the entire European Union. The unemployment rate sits at historically low levels. The country is, by almost every conventional economic measurement, a success story of extraordinary proportions. And yet, something has gone deeply, structurally wrong. Because today, in 2026, Ireland is officially one of the most expensive countries in all of Europe. Irish goods and services cost 38% more than the European Union average. There are just 1,777 homes available to rent across the entire country for a population of 5.3 million people. Wages have risen 46% since 2014. Rent has risen 105%. A country that built its modern identity on the promise of prosperity has quietly priced its own people out of the very prosperity it created. How did this happen, and who is responsible? In the 1980s, Ireland was, by Western European standards, an economic disaster. Unemployment stood at 17%, inflation was chronic, the national debt was approaching 120% of GDP. Emigration, that ancient, painful Irish tradition, had returned with a vengeance. Approximately 70,000 people left the country every single year throughout that decade, the majority of them young, educated, and with no intention of returning. The Ireland of the 1980s was a country that had not yet figured out what it was for. That changed in the 1990s, and it changed with remarkable speed. The Irish government made a series of decisive policy choices that would reshape the country beyond recognition. Corporation tax was set at just 12.5%, one of the lowest rates in the entire developed world. The education system was expanded and oriented deliberately towards science, technology, and finance. European Union structural funds poured billions into Irish infrastructure. And crucially, the world's largest technology companies, searching for a gateway into the European single market, found in Ireland exactly what they were looking for: a low-tax, English-speaking, highly educated workforce at the edge of Europe. The results were staggering. Between 1995 and 2000, Ireland's economy grew at an average rate of almost 10% per year. The country earned the nickname the Celtic Tiger. Unemployment collapsed. The emigrants returned. For the first time in its modern history, Ireland was a country people chose to move to rather than flee from. And then, in 2008, the Celtic Tiger died. The financial crisis exposed a darker truth about the Irish economic miracle. A significant portion of it had been built not on sustainable production, but on a property bubble of catastrophic proportions. Irish banks had lent recklessly to property developers. House prices collapsed by more than 50%. Unemployment surged back toward 15%. The government was forced to accept a humiliating $85 billion international bailout from the European Union and the International Monetary Fund. Ireland, for the second time in a generation, looked like a broken country. But it recovered, faster than almost anyone expected. By 2014, growth had returned. By 2017, Ireland was once again the fastest-growing economy in the European Union. The technology sector expanded even further. Pharmaceutical exports boomed. The multinationals stayed, and more arrived. By 2025, Irish GDP per capita, the total economic output divided by the population, was the second highest in the entire European Union, behind only Luxembourg. On paper, Ireland had never been richer. And that, paradoxically, is precisely where the problem begins.
Here is the fundamental contradiction at the heart of modern Ireland.
When an economy attracts the headquarters of the world's largest technology companies, it also attracts thousands of highly paid employees. Software engineers, financial analysts, and corporate lawyers earning salaries of 80,000, 100,000, or 150,000 euro per year move into cities, rent apartments, and compete for the same limited housing stock as nurses, teachers, and bus drivers. When demand significantly exceeds supply in any market, prices rise. And in Ireland, for more than a decade, the supply of housing has failed comprehensively and catastrophically to keep pace with demand. The numbers tell a story that is almost impossible to believe. In 2026, there were just 1,777 homes available to rent across the entire country of Ireland on any given day. To put that figure in perspective, it is fewer properties than exist in a single London borough. A country of 5.3 million people choosing from fewer than 1,800 available homes. A healthy rental market, according to international standards, operates at a vacancy rate of between 5 and 7%. That level of availability gives tenants genuine choice and keeps landlords competitive on price. Ireland's national rental vacancy rate currently sits at approximately 1 to 2%. In Dublin, it is closer to 1%. What does a 1% vacancy rate feel like on the ground? It means that viewings for rental properties attract between 30 and 50 people at a time. It means that prospective tenants offer to pay 6 months or an entire year of rent up front simply to secure a property. It means that families with young children, people with pets, and those depending on housing assistance payments are functionally excluded from the market, not because they cannot afford the rent, but because dozens of better-positioned applicants stand in line ahead of them.
The causes of this crisis are multiple, deeply interconnected, and decades in the making. Housing construction in Ireland collapsed during the 2008 financial crisis and never fully recovered. In 2025, just 16,000 new housing units were commenced, a catastrophic 75% decline from the 69,300 units commenced just the previous year. Ireland requires approximately 50,000 to 55,000 new homes every year simply to keep pace with population growth and household formation. Delivering 16,000 means that the housing deficit grows by approximately 35,000 to 40,000 units every single year. The gap between supply and demand does not stabilize, it widens relentlessly year after year. Compounding this construction failure has been a mass exodus of private landlords from the rental market. Between 2020 and early 2025, an estimated 42,300 rental properties were permanently removed from the Irish market as individual landlords sold their properties and left the sector entirely. Notices of termination from landlords increased by 35% in the third quarter of 2025 compared to the same period the previous year. Why are landlords leaving? Because for many of them, the economics simply no longer work. Marginal tax rates on rental income in Ireland can reach 52%. Regulatory requirements have increased substantially. The legal process for resolving disputes with tenants is slow, costly, and unpredictable. And rising interest rates have made buy-to-let mortgages significantly more expensive to service. For small landlords owning 1 or 2 properties, the calculation has become straightforward. Sell and invest the money elsewhere. The consequences for ordinary renters have been severe. Since 2014, wages in Ireland have risen by 46%. Over the exact same period, rents have risen by 105%. Property prices have risen by 113%. In Dublin, where a 1-bedroom apartment now costs approximately 2,500 euros per month, only the top 20% of earners can afford to rent an average property in the capital. The internationally recognized threshold for housing affordability is spending no more than 30% of gross income on rent. Ireland crossed that threshold at a national level in 2015. By 2025, the average Irish renter was spending approximately 40% of their gross income on housing. For those in Dublin on median incomes, the figure is considerably higher. As one renter described it with painful clarity in an online discussion that attracted thousands of responses,
Me and my girlfriend worked like slaves over the last few years to save for a deposit. We paid 500,000 euros with a 35-year loan for a mid-terrace house, only to find out that some of our neighbors received social housing in the same development for free.
That sentence captures more precisely than any economic report the fracture that is opening at the center of Irish society.
But the Irish cost of living crisis does not begin and end with housing. According to Eurostat, the European Union's official statistics agency, Irish goods and services cost 38% more than the EU average. Ireland ranks as either the first or second most expensive country in the European Union, depending on the specific data period examined. Only Denmark consistently challenges Ireland for the top position. The breakdown is revealing. Irish consumers pay approximately 15% more for groceries than the European average. They pay 17% more for energy, and in one of the most striking statistics of all, they pay 105% more on alcohol and tobacco, more than double the European average price. Why is everything so expensive? The answers lie in a combination of geography, government policy, and economic consequences that nobody fully anticipated when the decisions were made. Ireland is an island. That single geographic fact shapes the price of almost every good sold in the country. Every product that cannot be manufactured domestically, and that includes a vast proportion of what Irish consumers buy every day, must be transported across water. Shipping costs are higher, supply chains are longer, and with a population of just 5.3 million people, Irish markets are small enough that competition between retailers and suppliers is significantly weaker than in larger European economies. Less competition means higher prices. Energy costs in Ireland are among the highest in Europe, 17% above the EU average, and the reasons are structural. Ireland remains heavily dependent on imported fossil fuels, meaning that every disruption to global energy markets hits Irish consumers with particular severity. Planning and regulatory delays for renewable energy projects are, according to industry estimates, adding approximately 10% to wholesale electricity costs. And in one of the most consequential and least discussed policy decisions of the past decade, Ireland has become the data center capital of Europe. Data centers, the vast server farms that power the internet, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence, now consume 22% of all metered electricity in Ireland. The country hosts more data center capacity than almost anywhere else in Europe, attracted by the same low-tax environment and political stability that brought the technology companies themselves. But every kilowatt of electricity consumed by a data center is a kilowatt that is not available for homes, hospitals, or businesses. In a country already struggling with energy capacity, this has pushed electricity prices higher for every household and every company operating in Ireland. The cost of alcohol in Ireland, that 105% premium above the European average, reflects deliberate government policy. Ireland has some of the highest alcohol excise duties in the European Union. It introduced minimum unit pricing for alcohol in 2022, which set a floor below which alcohol cannot legally be sold. A bottle of wine in Ireland cannot be sold for less than approximately 8 euros. In Portugal, the average price of a bottle of wine is 4 euros. These policies were introduced with genuine public health motivations. Alcohol-related harm costs Ireland an estimated 2.35 billion euros every year. But the consequence for consumers is a cost of living that is, in this particular category, the highest in Europe. And beneath all of these specific factors runs a deeper, more structural problem. Ireland's economic success has been so concentrated in certain sectors and certain cities that it has created two Irelands that coexist uneasily on the same small island. There is the Ireland of the multinational technology and pharmaceutical sectors, well-paid, internationally mobile, and largely insulated from the worst of the cost pressures. And there is the Ireland of the nurse, the teacher, the supermarket worker, and the construction laborer, people whose salaries have risen, but nowhere near fast enough to keep pace with the cost of housing, energy, and daily life. One commenter in an Irish housing forum put the predicament with devastating simplicity.
It's almost as if starting a career and trying to increase your earnings is a punishment in this country.
The Irish government is not blind to the crisis. Housing targets have been set, planning laws have been reformed, and investment in public housing has increased significantly. In 2025, Ireland completed 36,284 new homes, the highest number since modern records began in 2011, including nearly 12,000 apartments, a 39% increase on the previous year. There are genuine signs of progress. But progress, when measured against the scale of the problem, is not yet enough. Ireland still needs 50,000 homes per year to meet demand. It is delivering fewer than 40,000. The gap is narrowing, but it is not closed. And in a market where every year of undersupply means thousands more people priced out of ownership and stretched beyond comfort in the rental market, narrowing is not the same as solving. The deeper question that Ireland must now confront is one that no government report or planning reform can easily answer. What kind of country does Ireland want to be? Because there is a choice embedded in every policy decision about housing, taxation, energy, and economic development. A choice between a country that attracts the headquarters of the world's most profitable corporations and accepts the price distortions that come with them, and a country that ensures its nurses can afford to rent an apartment in the city where they work, that its teachers can save for a home, and that its young people do not face the same soul-destroying calculation that every previous generation of Irish immigrants faced before them. Ireland has always been a country that punched above its weight, a small island that produced writers, politicians, and entrepreneurs who shaped the world far beyond its shores. It survived famine, colonialism, economic collapse, and the slow violence of emigration, and it emerged from each crisis with its identity, its culture, and its extraordinary resilience intact. Whether it can now solve the crisis it created for itself, a crisis not of poverty, but of the peculiar pressures of prosperity, only time will tell. If you found this video insightful, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Are you living in Ireland right now? Are you feeling the pressure of these costs firsthand? We would genuinely love to hear your perspective. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Four Corners Facts. Thank you for watching until the end.